you know, when you become a parent, you see the world in a really different place. And I saw the world differently. And I was home, and people were talking a little bit. Of my friends were sort of, I'd gone to a high school reunion, and there was a little bit of mention. There was someone that I was close to who was no longer there because he was not alive. And one day, I was in the kitchen. I think Matt was coming home from the office. Jackson was like 5 in the backyard playing. And I'm like, I'm going to watch some news really fast before, you know, I can't. And I turned on the television, and there was Jerry Sandusky. And he looked a lot like Eddie Fisher to me. I mean, he looked just like him in that picture. And I'll never forget the moment. I just stood there in like the kitchen just staring, and all of a sudden I became terrified. And I realized that I didn't know how to protect the little boy in the backyard because no one had ever talked about it. We hadn't learned anything from what happened at our school, and because we were afraid. So I didn't know what to do, and I thought, my God, I have a responsibility to protect someone now. And, you know, I thought I was a pretty good mom. Like, I knew the right car seat to use and the right baby bottles and all, all that stuff. But I didn't know how to protect him from the monsters. And so I thought I should take a deep dive into my past in order to figure out how to protect my son in the present.
What were some of your first leads before you went, when you began? Like, did you think, okay, I could start with this person, and...
I called Gary Glover, who you've all just seen in the film, and I said, Gary, you might not remember me from high school, but I remember you. I think you're heroic. I think you're the kind of person that I want my son to be when he grows up. I don't know if anyone's ever told you that, and I want you to know. And I said, I think this should be documented. I said, I think we should tell the world what happened at our school. We should first tell our community what happened at our school because no one really knew the true story. So we should tell everyone. We deserve to know the truth. The world deserves to know this story because it happens all the time. I said, but I won't make this movie if it's going to hurt you more because I know you've been through so much pain. And he said, Paige, no one's really ever said that to me, which makes me want to cry now. No one's ever called me a hero before. He goes, and I want you to make this movie, and I'll stand there with you. And I said, well, then hold my hand, and let's do it together. And then I called the school, and I said, I'm coming home, and I want to sit down with all of you in a room. I have something I want to tell you, and I did. And I said, I'm going to make a documentary about what happened at our school so long ago. And I want you to be in it with me because I want to talk about how the terrible things that happened then, they don't happen now. Now, on our watch, they're not going to happen again now. And I said, we're going to do interviews, and we're going to really dive deep, and we're going to show that, how schools can change. And they said, oh, that's really nice. And I went back home, and I said, great, I'm coming in with the camera. And their attorneys called me, the head of the board, and they said, okay, you can make your film as long as we have final cut of the film. And you're not allowed to say anything bad about the movie. About the school. And I said, I have never really made a documentary before, but I have a feeling that giving you final cut of my film would make me a pretty crappy documentarian. And I said, as far as not saying anything bad about the school, I said, the story's bad. I said, the truth is kind of bad, so I just want to tell the truth. And they said, well, okay, sorry. And I think they didn't think I was going to do it because they're the mighty, all-powerful, special school. And I did it. We couldn't even get footage from the news, news footage. It took us 2 years. Yeah. It's like we said at one point, we were like, I think they burned everything in this town because we had to go to the basement of one of the TV stations and beg them to give us footage. No, they weren't. They were not tracking. Not that I know of. Nobody was tracking him. And they were not only protecting him, they were protecting themselves. Let's remember, they were protecting themselves because the notion that he had done something with their precious boy and the family name. All those things were that's what they were protecting. And that was huge. So they didn't want to believe it to be true because what would that mean for everybody,
They protect him and not the victims.
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing today. And that's why the movie is so important because it raises the awareness and it makes it okay to speak up because this is the topic that nobody wants to talk about. And it's always swept under and it's always avoided. And that's what they were protecting their good name. Yeah. And they actually asked us at one point, well, could you change the name of the school?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right. They asked to change the name of the school, and I was like, "Have you guys ever seen a documentary?" I was like,
What?
Yeah.
"So
So arrogant.
They did. Right.
Did they ever try to threaten any kind of legal action or anything, or no? Because
I'll tell you something funny. They didn't. But at one point, I sat down at lunch with my 2 executive producers. I said, "I think they're going to. What if the school sues us?" And you said, "Bring it."
Yeah.
You said, "Great,
Great publicity.
better for the movie."
For me, it was interesting because I sort of wore 2 hats, you know, in this. First and foremost, the husband, and it was painful to watch Paige go through this, because as I was saying to you, you know, Paige was haunted. To answer, you know, who's haunted? Everybody there was haunted. Everybody that touched it, everybody that knew about it, everybody that walked away and lived there was haunted. And my wife came home from a trip to Charleston, and she was changed. And it's a fascinating thing because it's not like it happened while she was in Charleston on that trip. She was haunted by something that she knew about for all these years. But it finally became something that she couldn't live with anymore. And so she went through a period of, you know, what do I do with this? Where do I put it? Who do I tell? Who do I yell at? Who do I cry for? And then she said, I've got to make a movie. I've got to make a movie. This is a documentary. No one's told the story. I just want this school to own it.